Hi, I'm Whitney Lauritsen from EcoVeganGal.com, and welcome back to another live Q&A. I do these every Saturday, usually late morning, early afternoon on the Pacific coast of Los Angeles time. And welcome once again. If you're brand new, I'm going to be giving you the little lowdown on how these work. And if you've been watching, you can skip forward if you're not watching live. If you're watching the recording, you can skip forward by clicking the links in the description field, which I'll tell you more about in a moment. But let's first jump in and talk about how these work for any of you who are brand new. If you are brand new, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. You can watch these videos live on YouTube every Saturday, or the recordings anytime after they've been broadcast. They'll be available in video format on YouTube, as well as podcast audio format on SoundCloud. And the SoundCloud link will be up in usually the first 24 to 48 hours, as well as the full description field down below, which will have all the links to everything I talk about today, any products, books, websites, whatever's mentioned. You'll be able to find out more about it in the description fields on both YouTube and SoundCloud. And also, there will be timestamps, and you can jump forward to specific sections. So if you don't have time to watch the entire Q&A, you are welcome to just go to whichever part you feel most compelled by. And you can always come back and watch it later or download the audio. A lot of people like listening to this in their cars, while working out, while doing various things around the home. So there's a lot of different ways that you don't have to just sit there actively watching. But I also encourage you to do that too, because I will have some things on the screen in this specific video. For those of you watching live, I want to remind you that the best way, really the only way to ask questions so that I can see them live is through Google+. You can go to google.com/+EcoVeganGal. If you're having trouble finding that, you can find links to it on the EcoVeganGal Facebook page as well as the Twitter account. Or you can just look up EcoVeganGal on Google+ and find the event page for this, and then just click on that and you'll be able to see this live video as well as participate in the Q&As. I'll be answering questions about 40 minutes into the video every Saturday, and I'll try to answer as many as I can in the time that we have. Another great option for asking questions is doing it through SpeakPipe. Now, this won't work if you're watching live, but if you want to submit it for a future Q&A, or you know, you're watching the recording or something, there's a great link in the description field where you can actually submit your questions almost as if you were sending me a voicemail. It's completely free, and I don't know, I think I had one in the past week, but I forgot to incorporate it today. So I won't have any recordings today, but if you go to past Q&As, you can see what they're like. It's really amazing to hear other people's voice, and I would love to hear your voice. So if you are not shy about that, please send me a SpeakPipe. You can always be anonymous or ask me not to play the recording, and I'll just answer your question as if you wrote it in to me. What else do we have here? Oh, and lastly, I'd love, love, love to hear from you. This isn't just about me talking to you. It's about us talking together as a community, as is every part of EcoVeganGal. So jump into the comments here. If you want to participate live, you can use the Q&A section, or you can comment over on YouTube and jump in with your opinions on things. The only thing I ask is that you don't ask questions on YouTube, because I won't be able to see it. What I will ask is if you have questions after watching the live recording, or if you're watching the actual recorded video or audio, please use the bit.ly link. It's also available at Google+, so for some reason the timing doesn't work out and you don't get to ask your question, or it doesn't get answered, please submit it through the bit.ly link so that I can keep track of it and make sure to answer it in the future. And I believe it's just bit.ly/EVG That is the link for that there. All right. So I have a quick thing that I forgot to do before I got started. I would love to hear from you in the meantime while I'm setting this up. It's going to take me a few seconds. But for anyone watching live, I would love you to jump on the Q&A and let me know. Actually, this is going to be something that we're going to come up with. Should I ask you this now? I didn't think about this question. Well, I would love to hear what you're doing this weekend. Tell me if you're doing anything really exciting today, tomorrow, anything to celebrate, or if you're just relaxing at home. Jump on the Q&A while I'm setting this up, and then I'm going to read some of the best answers out loud. If you don't want your name mentioned, let me know. Cannot wait to hear from you. Let's see here. There we go. Perfect. That was really fast. Let me see if anybody jumped in on that. I want to know what's going on in your weekends. What am I doing this weekend, real quick? Well, today I'm going to a little party that a friend of mine is having at her jewelry shop, which I'm excited about. She has a beautiful jewelry shop in Los Angeles called Ellie Kate's Jewelry, and she's having a little party. She likes to have those every now and then, and she's going to have some delicious organic vegan food there and all sorts of goodies, so I'm really excited. Do I have plans tomorrow? I don't know. I usually do. Basically, my schedule is I work at home as much as possible. I'm currently working on the ebook, Healthy Organic Vegan on a Budget. If you want to learn more about that, there are links at ecovegangal.com, and I'll also put it in the description field here on YouTube as well as SoundCloud. You can sign up to know when that book is finally finished. I'm hoping to have it done in the next month, but it's a process. I'm really trying not to rush it because I want to provide you with as much information as possible, and it's just amazing to, to gather all this great information and have these tips for you. I hope they're really going to be helpful. None of you wanted to jump in to tell me what your weekend is like. Come on, guys. All right, well, maybe later on you'll find the courage. On that note, I've noticed that some people are really shy about leaving comments, and a few people told me recently that they don't usually comment on videos or social media because they feel like their comments don't matter. And I really want to take the time to remind you that your comments do matter. They matter to me, and they matter to other people. When I read your comments, especially when they're really nice, I don't really like the mean comments, of course, but I don't think you watching are the mean type. But the comments from you, the really dedicated audience, is just so phenomenal. It makes my day, and I love hearing about what you're going through. I love hearing your stories. I love hearing what you're up to, your experiences, your triumphs, things that you're working through, not just your questions, but please don't be shy. I know people are watching, so jump right in. Let me know how you're feeling, and if for some reason you don't like to leave comments because of the public thing, you can always reach out to me privately through private Facebook message. Is there a private message through Google+? I think so. I think you can just set it to private and send a message through there. You can private message me on Twitter. You can email me. I just love hearing from you. So if it has something to do with it being public, please never hesitate to reach out. And I love getting to know you on that personal basis. All right, so a few quick announcements every week I'm only going to have one today. Well, let me check one thing, actually. I couldn't decide on something if I was going to talk about it in this video or not. I changed my mind last minute. I don't know if I wrote it down. But let me start with the first announcement that I was definitely going to mention was that Ruby course. So for those of you who are unfamiliar or have been on the fence about Ruby, I just want to encourage you. There are a few seats left, as they call it, for this online plant-based course. So you can take an incredible culinary course and either use this to become a professional chef, to do more professional style cooking, baking, anything in the plant-based cuisine world, or you can use this course to really enhance your skills in the kitchen for private use, which either case I think it's really worth considering, because a lot of people hesitate to make food at home because they don't know what they're doing there, or they make the same dishes over and over again. And especially if you have a family, I think it's so important to have variety. But even if you're single, you live by yourself, you cook for yourself, how amazing is it to have variety? I don't know about you, but I find myself wanting to go out to eat a lot, and especially being in Los Angeles where there are a lot of plant-based options at restaurants, it's very tempting, but it gets really expensive. And I'm really inspired by taking the Ruby course because now I feel so much more confident in the kitchen. I have all these great skills, plus they have like hundreds of incredible restaurant quality gourmet options that you can learn to make at home that really take the fear away from it and bring up this confidence, this security that you can have with yourself. So if you've been kind of on the fence or you didn't know about this, I really encourage you to check it out. They have, as I mentioned, a few seats left, so it's virtual, but they make it seem like seats in the classroom. And I think they have maybe 200 people per course. I'm not sure, so it's very limited so that they can give a very specialized experience for you. And then they'll be opening it up again in October. So if you don't want to wait, jump in now. I'll have a link to Ruby down below in the description field. And I'm taking it right now, so if you ever want to converse and have a little classroom buddy, I will be there for you, and we can share photos and talk about things. I'm finding that knowing other people that are in the course is really helpful for me, because we're often talking about it and sharing our excitements, or being like, I need some encouragement, because you go at your own pace, and it really helps to have other people with you. So maybe you can do this with a friend or a family member, or do it by yourself and have somebody in your life keep you accountable for it. Maybe every week you could have a special meal based on what you've learned from Ruby. I can tell you the best thing I've learned so far is knife skills. I've been wanting to sharpen, pun intended, my knife skills for a while, and wow, every time I use my knife now, I'm like, oh yeah, I learned this Ruby, and it's become so much safer for me to cut with a knife, plus so much more efficient, and I'm learning how to cut things to look really pretty, and that just enhances the whole food experience as well too. All right, let me see. I didn't finish looking at my notes. Oh, I think I'm going to skip over any other announcements. Usually I do a product shout-out, but I didn't get very prepared today, so I don't have anything to share with you product-wise except for things related to the questions. So let's jump right into the questions, shall we? And remember, anybody watching live, you can chime in at any time to ask your questions, and I will be answering those in about 40-ish minutes, maybe a little less, maybe half an hour. And yeah, I look forward to reading what you have to say. In order to submit your questions, please do it through Google+. Do not ask your questions on YouTube. I will not be able to see them while I'm doing this recording. So go to google.com/+EcoVeganGal and ask it in the Q&A section. I'm going to start off with a few questions from people who have submitted previously through the bit.ly link or through other Q&As that I haven't had a chance to get to yet. And the first one comes from Eugen, who asked, some farmers at the farmers markets use pesticides on their produce. I'm wondering if it's better to go to the grocery store and buy organic produce or support the local farmers even though the produce isn't organic. This is a great question. You know, it's funny because this isn't very widely discussed when it comes to organic versus non-organic, and I think it's such a great question because it's an important thing, because nobody talks about it for some reason. When you're reading about organic, they're usually saying, buy organic, all organic, or buy organic whenever possible. And then if the people are not really into organic, they're like, who cares about organic? That doesn't matter. You know, there's usually two sides of the corn. Which is funny because corn is an important thing to buy organic, but I meant to say coin. I will be really getting into the nitty-gritty of the importance of organics and how to save money on organics, how to buy organics, in that ebook that I mentioned, Healthy Organic Vegan on a Budget, which will be coming out soon. So I'm kind of knee-deep in lots of information about organic foods, and my perspective on this is that I think it's really important to focus on whole foods and to eat as much fresh produce as possible. I've read somewhere, and I forget where the source was, but it was somebody I trusted who said that it's more important to eat fresh food than even if it's not organic. But it's not quite a cut and dry answer. So to address the farmers markets, most farmers markets actually have a certified organic section, and then the other section is it's kind of like what's not certified organic. That does not mean that it's not organic. The most important thing to ask at the farmers market is if they spray with pesticides. And a lot of farmers, especially at the farmers markets, don't use pesticides. So you are technically getting an organic food. I don't know, a lot of people might not know this, but it's becoming pretty common knowledge is that organic certification is very expensive. I think it's at least several $1,000s, and it's not something that a lot of farmers want to invest their money in. They want to invest their money in their farm and in high-quality seeds and farming practices and all of that. Maybe it's a lot more than that, but I hear that very commonly. I don't want to get the certifications too expensive. So it's really important, because they can't advertise organic, to just have a conversation about them. If they do spray with pesticides, You can then make that decision about whether you want to go to your local store or not. It's up to you. I personally don't like to buy non-organic foods, so I have a lot of stores in Los Angeles that I can go to, but that might not be the case for people in different parts of the country and the world. So some different options for you. You can buy non-organic or produce that's sprayed with pesticides. You can also find out if it is non-GMO, which is important to know, because just because it's organic doesn't mean that it's non-GMO, and just because it's non-GMO doesn't mean it's organic. So those are two things. GMO means genetically modified. So their actual seeds, you can find out maybe they spray pesticides on it, but it's actual non-GMO seeds, and that can make a difference in what you're purchasing as well. So just having a conversation. The great thing about a farmer's market is you get to ask all the questions that you want and really get the details. If they spray some pesticides, maybe they spray like gentle pesticides. You know, there are different levels of things like that. You can really get in there and decide how comfortable you are, and you can always just take this produce home and wash it with a produce wash, which is usually in like a spray bottle, and you spray it on your vegetables, you wash them in the water, give them a really, really good soak, and if you're cooking them after that, you're probably going to get rid of a lot of it. I definitely would say if you're on a raw foods diet, never eat your produce without fruit wash. Not only is there a chance of pesticides either from that specific produce or something that touched it that had residue on it, but there can also be a variety of bacteria from other people touching it and from, you know, the various processes it goes through. I know people who have gotten really sick from not washing their produce, and doctors are now recommending that everybody washes their produce, organic or not, especially if you're eating it raw, like a salad or fruits, or maybe you eat entirely raw. So I say no matter what, wash your produce, but especially if it has been sprayed with something. If you want to go to a local store and get organic, I also encourage you to look to see where it came from. Not all organic is created equally, and there's an issue too with environmental aspects of food if you're buying things locally or not. So if you have a local store you can go to, or a store that carries local produce that's also organic, that is a win-win situation. And I say, even though the farmer's market, the money is going directly to the farmer, which is great, organic markets, natural markets, especially the smaller ones, they tend to be really mindful about money and supporting their local community and farmers and all of that. If the food is coming from a far away place from you, then you might want to think twice about it. I would say it's probably better to go and get non-certified organic from the farmer's market than it is to get certified organic that's from really far away, because the quality, the transportation, not really knowing where it's coming from and all of that. So I guess it's a complex situation here, and it really just takes a lot of research. My priorities are always organic and local. If it's not organic and local, then I have to really think through it. Do I need this food? Can I wait? Is this food even in season? If a food is coming from another part of the country, it might not be in season in your area, so you're kind of like, it's like an unnatural thing, right? We should really be, from an environmental and even a health standpoint, it's really good for us to eat food that is in season and local to our environment, to our area of the world. And I think because of transportation and all these options, we now can get food from all over the place, but that causes all sorts of issues. So I really try to eat food that is just fresh, based on that time of year, based on where I live, organic, no pesticides. And every once in a while, I'll eat foods from different parts of the country that's not in season here if I really have a craving. But I've definitely tried to move in the opposite direction. So it comes down to your personal preference. It comes down to doing some research, and always comes down to having conversations with the people who are selling your food. So your farmers are the best because they are directly responsible for growing it, and small natural markets can be fantastic. They might have better customer service and more passion for their food. Big chain stores are probably going to be a little less knowledgeable and maybe not care as much. That's a whole nother experience at a big chain store that's selling organic foods, but you never know. So talk to whoever you can whenever you can. Thank you for asking that question. All right, next question comes from Jules. Jules said, I live in Pasadena at the moment, Pasadena, California. Do you have any recommendations on stores that sell the J&J's Naturals Flea and Tick potion locally? So what Jules is referring to is based on a video I did a while back on preventing fleas on your dog naturally, and one of the products I mentioned was J&J's Natural Flea and Tick Potion. I bought this at a place in Los Angeles called Healthy Spot, and they have a few locations, so Jules might want to consider driving over to maybe the closest would be West Hollywood. You'll have to check online and see, or seeing if any of his local stores carry this. I found some really great stores through Yelp, so I typed in Pasadena, California, then I typed in natural dog and narrowed it down to pet stores, and there's Centinela Feed, which is a local shop in Los Angeles. They have multiple locations. They are not entirely natural, but they may carry this. Two other places I found are Paw Boutique, and they sell organic and natural pet food, healthy treats, holistic supplements, chemical-free grooming products like this, and pet supplies. So Paw Boutique probably carries something like this, and Bow House. I'll link to those down below. Or you can go directly to their website. Their website is roughmart.com. The reason I was a big proponent for this one when I did the video was because the Healthy Spot said it was one of their most popular and most effective sprays. It's very potent, and it has all sorts of essential oils. I don't know if they listed on here, but my dog really doesn't like it. If you want to learn more about my thoughts on this, I'll link to that video. I also have a few other products that I've tried out over the years. I just got this one in the Vegan Cuts dog box. I haven't yet to try it, but it's similar to Rough Mart. This is the Miss Sarah's Botanicals All-Natural Flea and Tick Repellent. It smells similar to that one. I'll let you know how that one works out. I was also using this, which I got from Healthy Spot. I love that store. And if you go to the Eco Vegan Dog channel on YouTube, you'll see a few videos about that store. But this one's called Vet's Best Flea and Tick Spray. They also make a really nice flea and tick shampoo. And I alternate between the two of these in flea season for Evie, who's back there. She's actually chewing on herself today. She's had some tough times with the fleas lately. It's an ongoing struggle with them. Anyways, this one is a lot easier to find. You could probably find this at a lot of the bigger stores. Maybe even Petco would sell this, or you can buy online. It really comes down to who you want to buy from. And then in terms of other products that I really love for flea and ticks, I put this on Evie today. It's called the Neem Protect Spray from Arc Naturals, and this actually helps with reducing any itchiness that they experience from getting flea and tick bites. Evie has flea allergies, and it's so sad. She gets really itchy and uncomfortable. So I give her this, and sometimes if she gets really inflamed, my doctors actually recommend giving her a tiny piece of Benadryl. And it's very common to reduce inflammation in dogs, so you can look into that. Make sure that you talk to your vet before giving it to them, any dog that you have, and make sure that you understand the dosage before you do that. But if your dog has a flea allergy like Evie does, it makes a massive difference in their comfort level. Another product, not specifically for flea and tick, but I use it for soothing, is from a company called EcoSevi. They have a separate line called Ptaya, I believe is how you pronounce it. I love this company. You can go to their website, either the EcoSevi or cybercanine.com, and this is a coat spray. They sell a few different coat sprays for dogs that are very soothing. This one has chamomile in it, which I really like. The second part of Jules' question was, how often do you put diatomaceous earth on your dog, even if there are no signs of fleas? And I heard that there are many kinds of diatomaceous earth. Do you have a recommendation for which one? I forgot to bring it over, so let me go grab it so I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is diatomaceous earth, and this is a food grade version of it. This is what I would recommend. You don't want to get the pool grade. Not so good. So let me explain what diatomaceous earth is. It's this powdery substance, and it lasts forever. I've had this for years. Yes, Evie, you're wondering if this is a treat, but it's not. This is another way for you to prevent fleas, and I have a few articles on this on ecovegangal.com, which I'll link to, and videos on the EcoVegan dog channel. So diatomaceous earth is a naturally occurring, soft, sedimentary rock consisting of fossilized remains of hard-shelled algae. And this is used to dehydrate fleas or cut them. It's very, very fine, but since fleas are so small, apparently they're like little, the diatomaceous earth is like little rocks, and when fleas crawl over it, it cuts them. Not so pretty of an idea, but better for your health and the environment than using a lot of toxic sprays. It has performed really well through tests with the USDA and consumer trials, and is shown to be as effective as chemical insect control. People are always advised to wear a dust mask when they put it on. It's very fine. It can get into your lungs. I heard the food-grade version of diatomaceous earth isn't quite as bad for you, but it's still recommended that you wear a mask because when you sprinkle it around on your carpet or on wood floors and stuff, it gets into the air and can affect your lungs in a negative way. So you want to be careful with that. And in terms of how often to use it, I've read that you do it about once a week for 3 to 4 weeks during flea season, and that helps prevent them. You can actually sprinkle diatomaceous earth right onto your dog and comb it out. I haven't really used it in a year or a few years, but I think I'm going to have to soon because Evie's got the fleas. Yes, I know. You don't look very happy. You can't see her. Right? She's over there wagging her tail at me because she knows I'm talking about her. You can also put it in your backyard, which is cool. So get the food-grade version of it. The last part of Jules' question was, what do I think about rose geranium oil and neem oil for flea and tick repulsion? And rose geranium oil is mainly used for ticks, but you'll also find it in some flea formulas. And neem oil, as I mentioned, is very soothing. This product says that this is actually a combination of neem and citronella, which have been used for thousands of years for the people of India, Southeast Asia, and Africa. You may have used it before for citronella candles. And scientific studies have found that these plants contain compounds that have wound healing properties. Again, why this is really nice. Neem can be used on humans as well too. So I bet you could just put this on yourself and it would help if you get flea or tick bites. Neem oils and extracts are anti-inflammatory, gentle, and non-drying. They help soothe and reduce itching and dermatitis caused by insect bites. So maybe this neem would even be good for mosquitoes. I didn't look that up. So yes, to answer the question, you can make your own. You can use rose geranium oil and neem oil on yourself and on your pets. They're very safe. There are a bunch of different options. In fact, I even found by options I meant recipes that you can look up for making your own instead of buying products like this. I found a great one that combined diatomaceous earth with rose geranium oil and a few other things. I'll link to that down below if you are curious about making it yourself. I've had diatomaceous earth for like 3 or 4 years now, this one bag, and it just a little bit goes a long way. So that's like a lifetime supply. So I could make a lot of my own formulas mixed with other things. Maybe I will. I'm inspired by you, Jules. Thanks for the question. Okay, the next one comes from Deborah Von Hutten. I love that name. Can you give me advice on how to gain weight in a healthy way? I'm not underweight, but I just want to add some pounds. I'm not a vegan, but I try to eat healthy and plant-based as much as possible. I use rice protein powder after working out. Would it help to start helping with weight gain? And Deborah's from the Netherlands, so thank you for asking your question from across the world. I do have an article that was written by one of my previous interns who had a body type, and I can't remember if it was a health condition or something, but she was struggling with putting weight on her body and keeping weight on. And, you know, it's funny how weight is such a big topic. A lot of people focus on losing weight, but every once in a while I come across people who really want to gain weight and keep weight on. So I think this is such a great question. I'll link to that article that Jung-Hwa wrote a few years ago. I thought it was so wonderful, and it's received a lot of traffic, so I think it's been helping other people. I will link to that down below so you can read more what she had to say, but here are a few bullet points. She has found success in eating foods that are high in calories. Seems obvious, and she goes into detail about all these bullet points. I'm just giving you a summary. Eating and snacking often, having balanced meals, eating more dried fruits than fresh fruits, drinking your food, so things like the rice protein powders and various foods that are calorie dense, having a snack before bedtime, and cut back on cardio and working out. So again, she elaborates on each of those different points and what she's done specifically. The point about drinking your food in terms of using something like a rice protein powder, you can definitely look for protein powders that are dense in calories, and these can be used in addition to meals. They can be great before and after a workout if you are working out, just to make sure those calories stay there. I'm not an expert on weight gain. I'm not a nutritionist, so this advice is all anecdotal. I want to remind you, it's usually advised to go to a nutritionist or to a doctor that specializes in this to really figure out what's going on with your specific body, because all of us are different. We have a uniqueness, although there are some standard things that we can try. So along with those tips, maybe you want to take those with you to a nutritionist, to a doctor, and we're going to be talking about finding a primary care doctor that's aware of the healthy, vegan, plant-based lifestyle in a moment. So really making sure that you're going to the right person to get the advice. If anyone else there listening or watching has some advice or resources that you want to share on this topic and any of the topics I talk about today, please put it in the YouTube comment fields. I would love to hear what you have to say. Really quick question from Goldie. Eco-friendly options for contact solution. Over the years, I've been using Clear Conscience, multi-purpose solution for contact lenses. I have been using this for so long, probably 10 years. Ever since I went vegan, I started thinking about this. You can find this in any Whole Foods. I found it all across the country. You can order it online. I'll link to it below where you can get it anywhere. And this is cruelty-free. It's also sterilized by filtration instead of irradiation, and it's free of some chemicals I can't pronounce. So not only is it cruelty-free and vegan, but it is free of some chemicals. In terms of being eco-friendly, I've never been able to find a contact solution that was in a glass container, but this does last a long time, so buying it in the bigger containers, I can't remember how long this has lasted me, but it's a while. It's about $12, so it's fairly economical, and my eye doctors have never had a problem with me using this. So this is what I would recommend. There aren't a ton of options in terms of being super eco-friendly, but in terms of chemicals and being cruelty-free and coming from a great small company, I think that is a wonderful solution to the contact solution. I have lots of puns today. Okay, the next question comes from Carla. Can you give any tips for a becoming vegan on how to choose a primary care doctor? So I think what Carla is saying is she is becoming vegan, and she wants to find the right doctor. This is a great question. I recently found a website called vegandocs.com, which I'll link to. It is amazing because you can go on there and find doctors all across the United States. I'm not sure if it includes international doctors off the top of my head, but definitely for the U.S. There's also a great website, vegantruth.blogspot.com, and I'll link to that as well. That has a list of a bunch of plant-powered professional vegan doctors and a whole bio for each of them, which was really great. And then you can also look into holistic practitioners. Now, some holistic practitioners may not believe in the plant-based diet for health, so you do want to make sure that you kind of interview them to see if they are comfortable and knowledgeable about the vegan lifestyle. You can check out the American College for Advancement in Medicine, acam.org. I know someone that recently used that and had a great experience. I will link to that. And a few great tips that came from an article I read on One Green Planet, which was getting involved with local vegetarian groups and talking to people that you meet there about what doctors they use. So talking with them to find out what their experiences have been is probably going to make you feel really comfortable and confident about who you go with. You can certainly look up doctors, but I know it's so scary to find a new doctor because you're not sure. So I would say looking them up combined with talking with other people is probably the best way to find a good fit. But remember, you can interview doctors. You don't just have to pick one and you're stuck with them. You can go once, have an appointment, see how you feel, and then switch to somebody else if you're not comfortable with them. And you can also ask for doctors that your non-vegetarian friends and neighbors like, and if the doctor is open and knowledgeable, they'll probably be very accepting of the vegan way of life. And also, before seeing a new doctor, it's really helpful to develop a list of questions that you want to ask them, and a list of any concerns that you have, anything that, we were just talking about weight gain, for example. So Deborah may want to go to a doctor that is knowledgeable about healthy living and vegan living, with ideas about what she thinks will help her gain weight and what's going on with her, and together they can figure things out. And by interviewing a doctor, that's really, having that list of questions is going to help you make sure that this is the right doctor for you. So I would love to hear from anyone in the comment sections wherever you live. Do you have a favorite doctor that you want to give a shout out to? How did you find your doctor? Any other resources you have? As for me, right now I haven't seen a primary care doctor in a few years. The last time I did was when I was in San Francisco, and I had insurance through a company I was working with at the time, and I went to an amazing place called One Medical Group, and oh my gosh, I love this system. Big shout out to them. You can check out their website. They have all these great resources. They were just phenomenal, and their whole thing was making the doctor experience super, what's the word I want to use here? It was just like very professional and yet quaint. For example, you would go there and you wouldn't be in the waiting room for more than a few minutes, but when you were in the waiting room, it was like gorgeous, and you felt like you were in like this luxury situation, but their prices weren't that high, and they were accepted by my insurance, which is so great. And the whole experience was incredible. They weren't like the rush doctor situation where they would, you would sit in the doctor's room forever waiting for the doctor, and they would come in for 5 minutes, act like they weren't that interested in you, and then leave, and you were stuck with like this expensive bill. The other thing I liked about One Medical is the appointments, I think, were an hour long, scheduled. So I remember spending just a ton of time talking with my doctors and figuring out everything, and maybe it was 45 minutes, but whatever it was a lot more than the average doctor appointment. So you can learn more about One Medical Group. They have offices now in Los Angeles, San Francisco, I think Boston, a few places across the country. And whether or not you feel like they're a right fit for you, they're a great example of what a fantastic doctor's experience can be. And they really cared. I found a great doctor who was trained in both Eastern and Western medicine. So she would always start off with the Eastern perspective, the kind of Chinese medicine perspective, the holistic, all natural, and then if she felt like the problem needed to be resolved with Western medicine, she would bring in her opinion there, but it would always be still influenced by the Eastern medicine. So, for example, she wouldn't just prescribe a pharmaceutical drug. It would always start with, like, here's the natural option, and then if that doesn't work, we can try more of the pharmaceutical, and she knew all about the side effects and all of that. So I had such a fantastic experience there. Other than that, a lot of my friends go to holistic doctors, and they'll find them through sites like the one I just mentioned, American College for Advancement in Medicine, and yeah, there's a lot of great places all across the country and the world. You just have to do some research, talk to other people. I've always found that has been the most useful way to find a doctor. Moving on here, username Katie Kismet asked, I recently started recycling and I'm trying to be more aware in that area, and I'm a bit confused when it comes to reducing. I know there are plastics, glass, cardboard, paper, etc. that can be recycled, but I'm not sure which of these I should always try to purchase in order to be optimal for the planet. You said in your Q&A that the floss you used is awesome because it's in a cardboard container instead of plastic, but you can recycle both, so I'm just wondering why cardboard is better. All right, so the great question, and I could go on and on about this, but generally the order in which I buy things is I always look for things in glass, because glass is completely reusable and it can be recycled in a variety of different ways, and it's made from sand. So the processing of glass is generally thought to be one of the more eco-friendly options, although everything has some sort of a cost and cause and effect. So glass is very heavy, and thus when it's being transported, there's issues with that. It takes up a lot of space. So glass isn't perfect, but I love glass for those reasons. Easy to recycle and very reusable. So almost anytime I buy something in glass, I save the container for putting other things inside of it, like bulk spices and grains and legumes, and I sometimes use glass containers for traveling, so if I'm trying to transport things, maybe like small meals or drinks or whatever else, you can use a lot of glass containers for cups or beverages, beverage container basically, and I have, all shapes and sizes. Mason jars are great for that, or juice bottles in glass are wonderful as well. I always start with glass, then I'll move on to paper products, and then plastic as a last resort, just because plastic's been ingrained in my head as being so bad. But cardboard isn't so great either, which we'll jump into in a moment. So first I want to talk about recycling, and I pulled some quotes from one of my favorite books of all time called Plastic Free by Beth Terry, who runs the website myplasticfreelife.com. I would love to have her on as a guest. We actually did a Q&A years ago when I reviewed her book, which you can look up on this channel, but maybe I'll have her in again if you guys are interested. Let me know in the comments. So Beth has some great resources and points for what happens in the recycling process. So let me read that directly from her book. Most plastic recycling is actually downcycling. Plastic bottles are rarely recycled into new plastic bottles, but into other products such as carpet or polar fleece, which means that the recycling loop isn't closed. Downcycling a soda bottle into a carpet means that virgin plastic must be used to create the next new bottle. This process doesn't reduce the production of new plastic, which should be the intent of real recycling. So what I love about some of these points is that Beth really got into depth about what happens through the recycling centers. I think we have a lot of notions in our head, or maybe no knowledge whatsoever. We don't really know what happens when we put something in the recycling bin. And even though I've been passionate about environmental research for a while, I still get very confused about recycling. So my goal is always to buy things with as little packaging as possible, because I don't know what happens once it goes in there, right? Again, another point Beth makes here is most of the plastic recycling from the United States and much of the world is shipped overseas to places like China, where environmental standards are very low. It is horrific, some of the things you can read about what happens in the places that accept all of our recycling. People that work at these recycling centers in China are exposed to massive chemical fumes, off-gassing, all of that. Their conditions are not very good. So here we are just thinking our problems are solved by recycling things, but it has a massive effect on our environment and other people. A lot of recycling will just end up in the landfill. If it's not going through our system properly, it's not cleaned out, and some of it will end up in the oceans, and that's a whole nother topic, but we've got massive problems in our oceans with waste right now. It is important that you know not only what plastic numbers are accepted by your city, but also what shapes of items. I didn't know this, but every city has a different recycling standard, and they accept different types of plastic. So this plastic bottle, for example, is a number 1 PETE, and so it's important to know, do they accept this with a triangle and the number in it, but also do they accept this shape? Apparently not all shapes are created equally in the recycling world, and I don't know. I don't know much about that, but that's a good wake-up call. Also, just because your city accepts certain items for recycling does not necessarily mean they are actually recycled. Not so great there. Recycling slows down plastics' journeys from cradle to grave, but ultimately plastics can only be recycled, downcycled, or upcycled so many times before they end up in the landfill or environment, where they will linger for thousands of years or are incinerated for use for fuel, adding to air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Doing our part to recycle the plastic we use is important, but it's even more important for us as conscious consumers to pre-cycle by limiting the amount of stuff that has to be recycled in the first place. Let's follow the 4 R's. Refuse to buy single-use disposable packaging whenever possible. Reduce the amount of unavoidable plastic we do consume and choose only those plastic that can be realistically recycled where we live. Reuse plastic products whenever appropriate. Some are not healthy to reuse. And 4, recycle whatever is left. So the 4 R's are refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. I think that's fantastic. So keeping that in your mind. Coming back to paperboard. Paperboard is made of trees, which is a slightly renewable resource, as well as biodegradable, so that's why some companies choose to use paperboard, cardboard instead of plastic. However, making paper is a resource-intensive process that requires huge amounts of water, fossil fuels, and chemical bleaches. So again, making the choice based on what can be reused and recycled is always preferable. So coming down to the floss that I've mentioned, I had recently mentioned EcoDent. They have a floss called Gentle Floss that is vegan. It's made with all natural essential oils. It means vegan wax, so no beeswax, no mineral wax, and it comes in cardboard here. There is a plastic spool, and I found out through Beth Terry that the actual floss is nylon plastic. So you're using plastic in between your teeth. That was a bummer to learn. I would hope that EcoDent is doing the best that they can for us, but I don't know much about exactly how this plastic works, and it doesn't seem that Beth knows that, or at least included that much information. However, EcoDent has this little, there you go, little symbol on here, lower cost per flossing, less packaging waste. So apparently 1, 2, 3, 5.5, or I'm sorry, about 2 of the 50-yard flosses or 3.5 of the 30-yard flosses equal one of these in terms of packaging. So you are reducing your packaging significantly by using this as opposed to plastic, and that's why Beth Terry and I choose to use this. Beth said that it has the least plastic packaging that she's found, but the floss itself is made from plastic, and it has enzymes that reduce plaque as well as the essential oils, which is nice. She does say that whatever dental floss you choose, make sure the ingredients are listed on the package and you know what the floss or tape is coated with. Many commercial dental tapes these days are made with perfluorochemicals. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't sound good, to help them slide between your teeth. So she and I have both decided this is the best option that we have, although there are still some drawbacks to it. So it's, you know, it can feel overwhelming. We do the best that we can with what we have, and you can always get resourceful by trying to make your own somehow, or by contacting companies and putting pressure on them. Maybe we can all contact EcoDent and see if there's a way that they can make a non-plastic floss tape. Next time I see them at Natural Products Expo, I will definitely be bringing that up to them to see what we can do. But that is the power of the community, is coming together to make a change there. All right, I am running out of time here, and I want to make sure that I leave room for your questions. So I have one last thing to bring up real quick. This will be a quick one from Dee. Dee would love a bunch of ideas for long-term storage for food and emergency kits, in her emergency kits. She already has pre-packs of oatmeal, but is unsure what else to put that would be easy to carry but nutritious and full of protein and iron. So number 1, check out the Red Cross preparation kit, and that tells you about all the standard things you should be putting in your emergency kit. This is important. You know, we're seeing natural disasters all across the world, so having some sort of an emergency kit is very important, especially in a city like Los Angeles, where we're prone to earthquakes. We're now seeing typhoons, and not here, but in China there's just one. You know, we're coming up on hurricane season on the East Coast. We've got tornadoes and all sorts of crazy things happening all year round. So having an emergency kit is so important to take responsibility for yourself and your family. Ideas for food: you can do freeze-dried and dehydrated vegetables as fruits, grains, and beans. meatless dehydrated meals that you just have to add water to. You can buy these online. Places like REI or camping stores will have these that you would take camping, and those can be options. They might not be the healthiest thing, but this is for like the worst case scenario. You can get bars like Lara Bar, which is generally very unprocessed, or I think it's entirely unprocessed. There's usually just nuts and or seeds, usually nuts. I think they use cashews and almonds and dates, so they don't use any refined sugars, which is wonderful. There's also the Knee Bar, NII, which I think is all raw, and a variety of different bars, but if you're trying to go healthy, unprocessed, those are some of the top options for you there. You can pack some superfood powders. You could do macro greens and miracle reds. We did a review on that recently on Eco Vegan Gal to learn more about them, and of course all these different protein powders everywhere. There's so many options. You can get the little packs of them that you can store to last you a few days at least, and canned legumes, of course, or canned anything. Just make sure that you're buying BPA-free cans and organic whenever possible. Keeping a few of those things around for, you know, making sure that you have some satiation for a few days, and everything else that you need, I think is so important. I need to update my emergency kit. I don't even know where it is right now. But I remember a few years ago I got really intent. Also having fresh water. You can buy these water packets, and or just having, you know, actually the key with fresh water is making sure it's contained in something where it's not going to go bad, and making sure that you also look through your emergency kit on a regular basis to make sure it's updated, not expired, because a lot of them, if, you know, emergency doesn't happen, your emergency kit expires, and I'm not quite sure what to do once it expires, if it's worth donating it somewhere or just getting rid of it. But being mindful of all that, I want to remind you all, I thought that was such a great question, and if you have any other ideas for long-term food storage that is also healthy and vegan, please let me know in the comments. All right, well, I went a little over time as usual. Always so much to talk about. Let me jump into live questions here. It looks like we only have a few, which is great for our time today. So, let's see here. So, username Nana K Motto 656 asked, I know that drinking water of good quality is important for health. What do you think about using something like CoralMin to enrich water and render useful properties to it? Have you heard anything about this? Is it working? I've never heard of that. Is it, maybe it's CoralMin to stand for minerals? I'll have to look that up and get back to you on that one. If anybody else happens to know anything about this product, I would love to hear about it. But I'm guessing it is maybe minerals that you add. I know some people add minerals to their drinking water. The first thing I saw, I wonder if this is kind of like a multi-level marketing type of thing. I could be totally wrong, but I get that impression based on some of the first hits, because they have like a coral club. I'm always a little skeptical of things that are multi-level marketing, but that's my personal thing. Usually because it feels like there's pressure to buy it because people want to sell versus buying something because it's high quality. It doesn't mean that something that's part of multi-level marketing isn't high quality, but it always puts my defenses up, and I want to do extra research when I see it. Forgive me if I'm wrong about CoralMin. I literally just looked it up. If anybody else has any information on that, and I will also get back to you on more information about adding things to your water to enrich it. It's not personally something that I do. I really focus on filtering my water and using things like alkaline water and reverse osmosis and all of that. High quality water is so important. I don't know many people though that add things to their water, although you definitely don't want to strip out the minerals, because minerals within water are important. So let me do a little bit more research and talk to some people about it. If you can remind me about that question, that would be fantastic, so I can get back to you there. Really great question from, forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, Deshant Barat. Am I considered vegan if I consume medicines tested on animals? That is a great question, and something I've been meaning to address in these videos. Again, I would love the opinion of other people watching and listening as well in the comments section. You know, just as I mentioned with a product like this, right, we don't live in a perfect world. Even the most eco-friendly dental floss out there is still made from plastic. It still has drawbacks to it. And it's true about so much. You know, we can't drive a car without using animal products, at least not yet. There's just so much around our lives. So being 100% vegan is virtually impossible. I look at that as just kind of a fact, but not a way to deter me from calling myself a vegan. I think people call themselves vegan for a lot of different reasons, and as much as we would love to have some purist 100% definition of veganism, it's just going to vary from situation to situation. I would avoid buying products and using products that are tested on animals at all costs. And I have mentioned this in past videos. There's a fantastic book on my bookshelf called Spanking the Monkey, or is it called Spanking the Monkey, or is that just, it was a pun on it. Thanking the Monkey, is that it? It's a twist on Spanking the Monkey to get you to buy it. See, it worked on me. It's a very memorable name of a book. It's written by a woman named Karen Dawn, and she goes so into depth on hot topics like this in terms of how animals are used to have things tested on them. Anything from medicines to cosmetics to foods, to so much that we use. I generally avoid pharmaceutical medicine by all costs for health reasons and for things like this. But sometimes there's an emergency. Sometimes we choose to take certain drugs, medicines, because that's the best thing for ourselves at that time. And unfortunately, a lot of those medicines are tested. And I always say that you got to do the best that you can, and you got to do the best for yourself and take care of yourself first. Because once you take care of yourself, then you can take care of other people. So it's up to you. I would be willing to bet that a lot of vegans out there unknowingly use products that are tested on animals. If they're taking any sort of drugs, in terms of pharmaceutical drugs, then chances are they're tested even though they don't realize it. So if you're afraid of using the word vegan to describe yourself, you could use a different terminology. Some people choose not to use the word vegan because they don't want criticism and pushback. They don't want to be judged for doing things that aren't considered vegan, and they just don't want to label themselves. So it's up to you and your comfort level. I don't think when you say you're vegan, in most cases, people aren't going to come up to you and go, well, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you use medicines tested on animals? That probably won't happen if that's what you're afraid of. But if you're more concerned from a personal standpoint about what you call yourself and being in line with what you say, then I think that alone is so great that you're even questioning that, and really just being as knowledgeable as possible about what you use and where it comes from. It all comes back to the very first question in this Q&A about whether or not our food is organic. It's that same thing, you know, questioning what we buy and where it comes from, how it's made, is ultimately one of the best things that we can do. It's empowering, and it helps us make the best decisions possible. You may find that there is an alternative to certain medicines that you're using or want to use. I would always look for holistic, all-natural remedies to things before you pursue pharmaceutical drugs and all of that. And talk to doctors about different options. Maybe reach out to companies and see what you can learn about it. And use resources like Karen Dawn, who knows so much, with books that she's written and her website and all of that. Thank you so much for your question. Anybody else who wants to jump in on that one, please do. All right. So Michael asked, I'm a beginning 49-year-old vegetarian. Awesome. I love that. I love it when people choose to change their lifestyle at all different ages. That's so wonderful. Do frozen fruits and vegetables maintain their nutritional value? Great question. I'm a little unsure about this. Off the top of my head, but it depends on how the fruits and vegetables are frozen and when in their stages. If it's done right away, I believe they can retain a certain amount of their nutritional value, but then it depends how you're using them afterwards, how you're thawing them, are you cooking them, where are they coming from, are they organic? There's so many questions. Not all things are created equally, and same goes with frozen produce. I will be covering this in my book, and I forget some of the research that I was doing on that. So I may have to revisit this question for you, Michael. But one thing that I do know is that you could, for an environmental and financial reason, freeze your own fruits and vegetables, and that way you know exactly where they're coming from and what state they were in before you froze them. And generally, you can still get most of the nutrients from them. But I will have to dig a little bit deeper on that in terms of exactly how much they lose. Yes, I'll get back to you on that one, Michael. Thank you for that question. And again, anyone else, if you have some great resources, if you know off the top of your head, let me know, and please refer back to any place that you found that information. Well, I'm going to wrap things up today. Thank you so much to everyone for watching and listening here on YouTube and SoundCloud. I would love to hear from you, as always, in the comments for you getting involved in answering any of these questions from today. And if you have future questions, please use the bit.ly link in the description fields. The description fields, again, are going to be loaded with all sorts of links to everything we talked about. Usually it takes 24 to 48 hours to get that information up there from you once this is recorded. You can tune in every Saturday to hear more topics being discussed about healthy, eco-friendly vegan living. And in the meantime, I encourage you to check out ecovegangal.com. Sign up for the newsletter so you get great information and inspiration directly to your inbox. Jump in on conversations on social media. I have links to all the social media networks down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Not only do I do Q&As, but occasionally I put up other videos that are shorter and on a variety of topics in the Eco-Vegan Gal world. And you can also go in the description field to find links to the other Eco-Vegan Gal channels. I have What a Vegan Eats, where you can learn about various foods that I'm eating and enjoying and buying. You can go to Eco-Vegan Gal Uncensored, where I share personal experiences and thoughts and just kind of have an open, emotional conversation about whatever I'm thinking about. And the Eco-Vegan Dog channel, which I've discussed a little bit today, if you want to learn more about my journey with Evie and things we're discovering along the way, as well as the EVG Venture channel, which is all business related. And we've got a lot of different channels with a lot of different content for you. And so if you want all of it, subscribe to whichever ones that you like. Lastly, I want to mention that, speaking of business here, I will be doing a online course with Kobe from Vegetorials, which is another channel I highly recommend. We will be teaching you how to run your own YouTube channel. So if you're inspired by me and Kobe and anyone else out there spreading the word about healthy living, eco-friendly living, vegan living, all of the above, I really encourage you to start your own channel. And if you want to know where to start and how to make it successful and even how to make money from it so you can make it your full-time career, check out that course. I have a link in the YouTube description field and the SoundCloud description fields for you to sign up, so you get all the details when we launch. I'm so excited to do that for you. And lots of other things are up and coming, like the book, the ebook that I've mentioned, and some other courses that I'm planning, so stay tuned. It's another great benefit of signing up for the Eco-Vegan Gal newsletter. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next weekend, next Saturday, same place, perhaps a different time. The timing changes a little bit so that different people can join in, and it fluctuates with my schedule. So stay up to date with that on the Eco-Vegan Gal Facebook page, Twitter, and the Google Plus page. I will see you then. Have a fantastic week and weekend. I cannot wait to read your comments, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.